Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome to the December 2023 Qualifier Weekend. This is a special event you had to pre-qualify for by being top 200 Mythic in the previous month, or by winning a Qualifier Playing event, and if you manage to make your way through the entire Qualifier Weekend Day 1 and Day 2, then you'll qualify for the next Arena Championship and Pro Tour. For today's event, we'll be competing in Best of 3 Lost Caverns of Ixalan Sealed, where if we can reach 7 match wins before 2 losses, then we'll make it into the Qualifier Weekend Day 2 event. But regardless of our record, we'll be leaving the event with some amount of gems, so no matter what, we'll be getting some solid value. Without further ado, let's bust open our packs and see what we get to play with today. So here's a look at the rares for our sealed pool. Best one by far being the 2-for-1 Trumpeting Carnosaur, a massive 7/6 trample that discovers another spell to cast for free. It's also flexible, being able to be cast as removal if we need to with that discard ability. After that, there's a pretty massive drop-off. Galta is a ton of mana for just one creature. By the time you have 8 mana, you're very unlikely to have other creatures in your hand to shove on the board. This is a really fun card to build around in Constructed, but there are very few great synergies for it in Limited, where it's only going to fit in your deck if you have a ton of excellent ramp to get there. Queensbay Paladin, there aren't a lot of great vampires in the format. This is very heavily dependent on what we've opened up, and usually doesn't play that well. And the same for the Deeproot Pilgrimage, just not a massive quantity of merfolk in the set in general, so not likely to have enough for this to be worth playing. The Echoing Deeps does basically nothing in Limited, unless we have a really good self-mill sealed pool and some kind of really insane land that we could maybe have in the grave, but that is tremendously narrow and tremendously unlikely. Honestly, the best rare by far is the Carnosaur. Second best is probably Treasure Map. It's a bit slow, you're definitely spinning your wheels, dirtling around with your mana for a while. But once this flips, it's essentially managed to scry 3 and draw you 3 additional cards over the course of the game. So it is pretty solid value, especially if you have other ways to create treasures. It just plays too slow in this format's draft environment, where things can be pretty consistently aggressive. I think Sealed is probably enough of a difference in the tempo of the game and a slow enough format to justify running Treasure Map in just about any deck. So Carnosaur and Treasure Map looking pretty solid. Galta's probably the third best, followed by the Queensbay Paladin and the Deeproot Pilgrimage. But the only rare that we don't have to build around for it to be good is the Carnosaur, maybe the Treasure Map sort of. The Paladin, the Galta, and the Pilgrimage are all really dependent on what we have in the sealed pool, and none of those 3 are particularly likely to have enough synergies to really go for them here. So really going to matter what our uncommons and commons show us here, where we have the most synergies, what colors look the best. I'm going to take a peek at the colorless and the multicolored, see if we have any good fixing, and we don't really. We've got 1 Captivating Cave and 1 Scampering Surveyor for colorless mana fixing, and as for multicolored cards that are pushing us in a specific direction, we just have the Eatskeenth Firstborn of Gishath for red-green dinos. So if our green and red are good, then that should be a pretty awesome place to be. But that's it, pretty simple stuff, not a lot of colorless cards, not a lot of multicolored. Just going to take a peek at every color and see how things look. Starting off the individual colors with a peek at white, we have some really good 2-for-1 value craft with artifact spells. We've got some of those great 1-mana 1/1 flyers with a bunch of extra stats on them, either lifelink or vigilance or exploring, all that kind of stuff. So these are really nice reasons to be in white. We also have a Tinker's Tote that plays pretty well. Deconstruction Hammer has worked nicely. The Dawn Runner looks good in here with a hammer in the deck. Some more filler removal if we need it with a Quicksand Whirlpool, and some filler creatures up the curve with an Envoy and Archaeologists and so on. White's looking very reasonable here. Not insane or anything, but some really good quality with Saw Blades and Clayfire Bricks for the long game, some flyers in the early game, and some decent interaction between the Saw Blades and the Whirlpool. I like the color. Looks pretty solid. Checking out our blue now. Some pretty Sturdily non-creature spells. I have 2 merfolk in this color, so Deeproot Pilgrimage is really not looking like it's going to be a thing. Some pretty filler creatures. Yeah, I just don't see a huge reason to be in blue. It's got a kind of consistent mana curve, so that's nice, having a little bit of stuff to do throughout the entire curve. And even some of these mediocre spells we could maybe throw back in just to have a more wide mana curve. But that's about all it's got going for it. There's nothing immensely powerful or just really good in the color. Checking out the black now, we have a couple Malicious Eclipses, and this is a best of 3 event. So keeping black in mind as a color to side into against decks that have really wide, really small board states could be nice for us. I don't think black looks deep enough to just run as a core color of the deck immediately. Just one straight up removal spell. Actually, no, there's a Bitter Triumph, so there's 2. There's a Bitter Triumph and a Tithing Blade here, but the Tithing Blade isn't targeted removal. So yeah, not the greatest non-creature spells, because I don't think we main deck the Double Eclipse. And the creature curve is obviously pretty bad. We would need to tie it with a color that has a lot more going on early game. Black just giving us basically some filler 5 and 6 mana creatures. That's about it. We actually have 0 vampires, so Queen's Bay Paladin is just horrible. Do I even have any vampires in white? I don't. Wow, yeah, that is really bad. So Queen's Bay Paladin is unplayable. I mean, if I put every single card in the sealed pool in the deck, then we can check our vampire and merfolk count. We have 3 merfolk and 1 vampire. And the 1 vampire that we have is the Queen's Bay Paladin. So that's a horrible, horrible sign for 2 of our rares there. That means 3 of our rares are completely, legitimately unplayable. I guess the black rare, the vampire, is still technically a 5 mana 5/4, but a 5 mana 5/4 with no actual abilities is not something you really want to put in your deck. So Paladin's unplayable, Pilgrimage is unplayable, and Echoing Deeps is unplayable, so that's really disappointing. Maybe we'll get really lucky and have a massive amount of ramp to have just an 8 mana 12/12 trample be a reasonable play as a finisher. Who knows? We are moving on to checking out our red now, so hopefully red looks pretty great, because our red rare is our best rare by a lot. So let's see. Alright, well there's a good quantity of cards here. We've got Efficient Removal with a Triumphant Chomp, and a couple Sunfire Torches. They're a little more narrow, but they're still just 2 mana total to deal 2 to any target, so that's relatively efficient. Idle is less efficient, costing 3 mana total, but you can just jam it out. You don't need any creatures on board to use it. And Rock Slide is pretty dang inefficient, but I think in Sealed we still run it to have more removal. 4 mana for 4 damage. On turn 5 it's 5 damage, turn 6, so on. Well, not really on those turn numbers, but on those land numbers, because you don't always have 5 lands out turn 5. Okay, what do we have for the creature curve? Because Zoyo's Justice doesn't do anything, and Dowsing Device doesn't if we don't have a really high artifact count, which it doesn't look like we do. So these are the playable non-creatures. As for the creatures, Cavalry's fine, Scallywag's filler but fine. Militia can be really good if your deck is really good at putting a lot of permanents on the board, so red-white is the color pair that's the best at that. Otherwise, it's just pretty filler, and it looks like it'll probably be pretty filler here, because I don't think we're probably moving towards red-white, but we'll see. A couple Wanderglyphs are pretty great, though. The artifact card type can be pretty advantageous to have. There's a lot of random synergies you could do with it. If it ends up in the grave, we can do any of our craft with artifact cards. And the attack trigger on this thing is really nice, or the become tapped trigger, to be able to be looting through our deck and ditching lands later for non-lands, or non-lands for lands in the early game. Blade Master's not really good, doesn't really do anything. Gold Fury Strider's a bit slow, but this is sealed, so hopefully things are a bit slow in general. And of course, we get the Incredible Carnosaur here. I think red is my favorite color so far. Carnosaur's a massive reason to be there, and we have some pieces of removal here. Our mana curve in black is awkward. The only thing it has is just some beef and then a couple removal spells. For blue, it's kind of just filler stuff. White does give us these valuable plays. Maybe red-white, Sunshine Militia, kind of synergies with Tinker's Tote, and with these artifacts that'll be sitting on our board doing nothing for a while anyway. Yeah, red-white actually is looking like the most reasonable place to be currently, because I think red is the best color. Pairs better with our white than anything else. Alright. Not a terrible start, but we'll check out our green now. Make sure we've checked every color in the sealed pool. We have 1 Poison Dart Frog to ramp us up, to try to get to 8 mana for Galta. Not really happening. Some definite sideboard material from the non-creature spells. And the creatures just aren't that high quality. Mineshaft Spiders are good with Graveyard Recursion and just graveyard mechanics in general, but don't think we even have very many in the color pairs that would be going for graveyard stuff. Yeah, we have none of the black graveyard recursion spells that want to fill our graveyard. We have like no big descend payoffs either. Out of the color, blue is the only other that might have some big descend stuff, and we don't. We've got a couple Didact Echoes and a Council of Echoes, but that's not like a massive payoff for going like green, blue Mineshaft Spider stuff. Yeah, no, so the Mineshaft Spiders are just 3/4s with reach with like no synergy. Same with the Capybara, because we're not going to be playing any self-mill descend kind of nonsense, really. Seeker of Sunlight's a really expensive mana sink. That card doesn't play super well. Veteran's super filler. So like in green, I am excited to play a Cavern Stomper, a Colossal Dactyl, a Staggering Size, a Dart Frog, a Galta. And then everything else is just filler or bad. And some of these I'm not that excited about, right? Because we don't have a lot of ramp for this Galta, so it's going to be stuck in our hands sometimes for sure. And it's, again, not insane. It's just one really beefy finisher, where if our opponent doesn't have removal, they do just die to the 12 trample damage. But it doesn't really have an enter the battlefield effect. In sealed, we're not going to have creatures left in our hand when we play it. So it doesn't really have any text on it outside of just, if this hits your opponent, they die. Which is good, but it's also an 8 mana spell. By the time you're casting an 8 mana spell, it is quite easy for your opponent to have some kind of removal left over. Or it's quite possible you just don't even make it to 8 mana in some games. So I'm not even that immensely excited about trying to play the Galta, especially with just a Poison Dart Frog to help get there. I mean, we can double check our color list. There is one way to ramp up. We have that Scampering Surveyor there. So this can also ramp us up like the Dart Frog can. So 2 ways to jump up the mana curve and try to get to 8 early. But that doesn't feel like enough to make Galta insane. And outside of the Galta, it's just like a Colossodactyl, maybe a Dart Frog. It's not a super exciting color. So I am really feeling that red-white. I mean, the other exciting piece of playing green is getting this Firstborn of Gishath. That is kind of exciting. Getting a 4-drop creature that works as another removal spell. So a green-red kind of deck would give us that. It would also give us some definite filler. And do we get any treasures by playing red? To help get to 8, we get 1 Ancestor's Aid, maybe? And then the very inconsistent Enterprising Scallywag, although this theoretically goes with Volatile Wanderglyph pretty well. If we get those 2 cards together, then we can make the Scallywag much more consistent. Just try to discard a permanent to draw a card every turn. So like 1 Ancestor's Aid, 1 Scallywag, add a tiny bit to our ramp, but still not enough that the Galta looks easy to cast. Not in the slightest. We only have room to cut 9 cards out of here, unless we play Scampering Surveyor and Treasure Map, which I think we would. So that'd be 2 more cards in here. I guess that's the other thing Treasure Map can do, right? Theoretically, we can... Ooh, almost spilled my drink. Good thing it has a lid on it. Theoretically, with Treasure Map, we could use this just to scry for a few turns, and then we get 3 treasure tokens and a land. So if we sack all the treasures and use the land, this is ramping us 4 mana. So all of a sudden we flip this. If we flip this on turn 4... Well, let me think. What's the natural course of the game? We play this turn 2, scry the first time during our opponent's end step, turn 3, because we have so many 2-drops. So we play a 2-drop and we scry. Turn 4, play a 2-drop or a 3-drop and scry again. Turn 5 is when I flip this. And if I flip it turn 5, I'll have spent a mana to flip it. And this doesn't exile itself and then like re-enter the battlefield, so it'll stay tapped the turn that we flip it. So realistically speaking, the quickest we flip this is turn 5. It will be a tapped land, and we will have tapped a mana to flip it on turn 5. So we could turn 6 a Galta off of a treasure map if I play it on turn 2 and use it every turn. Which is like not that insane. Slightly faster than going like Surveyor and Dart Frog. Going with one of these two. Like if I have a Dart Frog on board and I've hit every land drop, I can play a Galta turn 7. If I play a Dart Frog and a Surveyor, I could play a Galta turn 6. I don't know, I guess that's a tiny little buff towards the Galta also, but it still is not looking majorly consistent, and the mana curve is awkward here. I mean, having a lot of 2-drops is good, but there's like no real quality in the middle. There's a big drop off and then boom, Galta. Way up there, trying to help us out. Anyways, if we throw the colorless cards in here, we get to cut 13 cards now. I've set aside the really bad cards I just really don't want in the deck. There's more cards I want to cut, but setting aside even just the worst ones. That's already 12 out of 13. So we don't have much room to improve the deck from here. Like, this is the quality of cards that are going to be left in here. Could cut the Galta if I'm convinced I'm not making it to 8 mana. I mean, looks fine. I like the red-white mana curve a lot better. And this deck still has good top end, because we flip our clay-fired bricks and we can flip our saw blades. This is another 4-drop. This is a 7-drop that buffs our whole board. We're definitely in red. I am still confident on that one. I think our red cards just synergize better with our white cards than our green, because then we can utilize Sunshot Militia's ability a little easier, again, when we have some artifacts sitting on the board like clay-fired bricks or saw blades. Or when we're in a really lucky spot and we get to drop a Tinker's Tote and have 3 permanents off of this one spell, that really helps with Gold Fury Strider and Sunshot Militia style abilities. We've got a few of those style abilities. So I think red-white looks better than red-green here. I'm going to take another peek at the most powerful cards here in every color, see if there was really any reason to splash, but I don't think that there was. If there is, we should do it, because we have a Scampering Surveyor that can pull out any land type off of this colorless spell. Treasure Map does eventually give us some treasure tokens that we could use for a splash. Captivating Cave can also get a splash color. So if there's any like reason to splash, that'd be basically a powerful spell that only requires 1 mana of its color. If we have any of those, we should probably splash them. Maybe Firstborn of Gishath qualifies? We don't need the mana for it till turn 4, and even if it's the only dinosaur on our board, it's a 4 mana 2/3 that deals 2 to something, so it is likely to be a 2-for-1, even if it's clearing out a small card. And if we're lucky, we do have 2 dinosaurs in red. We have the Trumpeting Carnosaur, and we have the Scytheclaw Raptor, And that's even if we don't play any green, so maybe Firstborn of Gishath as a splash is fine. I don't see anything else in green that is splash worthy, because the strongest green spell is triple green at the top of the curve, or some of these double green cards that are also hard to splash. What about black? Anything splash worthy in black? I mean, the Queen's Bay Paladin doesn't do anything, and it's also double black. And the creatures are all dirtily. I mean, we could splash a Bitter Triumph, I guess. Which gives us the small benefit of having a hidden Necropolis. Because then we can pull that out off the Scampering Surveyor. But unless I'm playing multiple black lands in the first place, I'm not going to have the mana to sack this thing anyway. So I would still, even though I can pull out a Cave with Surveyor, I'd still just want to pull out a Captivating Cave or... I mean, I guess if I'm pulling a land out with the Surveyor, I'll pull out the Necropolis, because might as well, it's going to enter the battlefield tapped anyway. But I'm just never going to have the mana to discover with this, so it would still just be better to run a Swamp for the times that I draw the Swamp naturally instead of trying to pull it out with the Surveyor. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing we could do. We could splash in a Bitter Triumph, but I don't think we need to that badly. Really depends on the matchup we get in. Maybe we'll play against a red-green Dinos deck and our burn spells just aren't big enough. Like Triumphant Tromp and Sunfire Torches for just 2 damage. The Rock Slide equal to the number of lands we control, and then the white removal is 5 damage. But we do have one, just exile any creature removal spell in white, so there's that. Yeah, that's the only thing I would think about splashing in blue at all, or sorry, in black at all. And then in blue, I mean, we just don't have any like individually insane cards. Our best cards in blue are just good cards on curve like Oaken Siren and Cogwork Wrestler. Those are certainly not splashes. They're just like solid commons on curve. Yeah, no, we're not playing around with that, with the blue. It's just red-white here. Find our best build of red-white. Maybe throw in the Firstborn of Gishath. But probably not. So let's actually fully commit to this. We'll get rid of the faded color scheme and start fully building a deck here. So Zoyoa's Justice does nothing. Might have an okay artifact count towards Dowsing Device now. Okay, we have no map tokens. We have maybe 3 treasure tokens. But the Dowsing Device doesn't synergize with the Scallywag because that gives us treasure tokens during our end step. So it doesn't matter that that's triggering at that point. And what about just natural artifacts? There. Well, I'll probably end up cutting a good chunk of these artifacts, but is this just +1/+Os? It's just adding to our power, so we're spending 2 mana. And then we're basically giving like all our artifact creatures haste for the rest of the game. And anytime we're playing artifacts, we're pinging for an additional 1, maybe 2 damage. If we can flip this, it ramps us up if we need the mana. Then it just gives a minor buff every turn. In the right positions, like this does look good, like stacking into extra damage. My issue is that it's not fully impacting the board like a creature, where it's not going to trade off into anything. It's not going to be dealing damage by itself. It is 100% a support piece that doesn't do anything on its lonesome. Not only because it needs to be playing other artifacts, but it also needs to be buffing other creatures. Still feels a little narrow, but we have the artifact count for it, so I'm not going to like immediately cut it. I am going to immediately cut the Echoing Deeps, though. We're not copying any lands and graveyards. Landmark is another dirtily 3 mana creature, basically. We have to craft something to even play it in the first place, and it's just alright. Is there anything else that is at a different spot on the curve than it looks like? No, I already moved the Firstborn 4. There is treasure map costing us 5 mana total over time, but it's just taxing 1 mana on future turns for a few turns. I mean, this is definitely too slow by modern limited standards in draft. It's still too slow in sealed. Like, when you think about it, it's gonna stack up into costing you 5 mana to draw 3 cards in Scry 3. Which, if you could do it up front, would be a solid value play. But it's Scry 1 3 times over the course of 3 turns, and then it's draw 3 over the course of the next 3 turns after that. So once you get the flip, it's not like you immediately get immense value, you still grind things out from there. Actually think that might also be in the maybe pile. Speaking of maybes, probably do have a lot of removal for small creatures for sealed right now. We have Idol of Deep King, Double Sunfire Torch, and Triumphant Chomp. Some combination of these should probably get cut, just run a couple. Because we'll still have, I think, in sealed I prefer like the big removal of like Whirlpool, Rock Slide. Run an Idol and a Chomp as those being slightly better than Sunfire Torch, slightly more consistent probably. We don't need combat trick kind of Ancestor's Aid nonsense in here. But it might be fine. I don't know, Acrobatic Leap, Ancestor's Aid, these random combat tricks, they could be okay. I'm not super excited about them. Deconstruction Hammer, depends on the matchup, but just slamming it onto one of these 2 flyers is good. Having main deck artifact enchantment removal is nice. Guess depending on the matchup we could cut it out, but I think I want to start with it in. And again, depending on the matchup, we can throw in the torches again for more ways to clear small creatures. We could cut the Whirlpool if they're just hyper aggro, cut the Rock Slide if they're hyper aggro. 15 non-creatures, I'd be cutting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, these spells are all tried and true here. I still think I'm going to try to keep Treasure Map in for now. I'm not confident in the value of that spell anymore. 20 creatures to 10 non-creatures now. We still need to cut 7 more cards. 10 more cards. Cut an Oath to Clan landmark. Feels like our dirtiest creature. I want to keep a good chunk of top end and sealed. I'm going to keep all the 5s and 6s, I think. Eats Keen by itself is still fine, but our only real splash provider is the Scampering Surveyor. We have that in the Captivating Cave, but we can also just ditch the cave to draw a couple cards. Yeah, I just don't think we're throwing the Firstborn in here. Blade Master, even with a good chunk of artifacts, is kind of inconsistent. Don't love that. Like all our other 3-drops better, although the Envoys are the weakest. 2 mana. Burning Sun Cavalry with 2 dinos is the weakest. So Tinker's Tote is basically a creature. That's it for non-creature, quote-unquote, creature spells. I'm going to have one more creature than it looks like. We're at 19 right now. Cut the Burning Sun Cavalry. And we are at 18 creatures. Let's cut 1 Envoy. That's 17. Cut a couple non-creatures seems like a fine spot to be here. I mean, our mana curve is solid here. I think we're pretty good at spending most of our mana on most turns, and basically never want to spend 1 on a turn that we're playing a 3-drop. Never want to spend it when we have 5 mana up. Treasure Map might actually just be glacially slow nowadays. At least unless we're just a dedicated control sort of deck, and I don't think we are. Much more on the aggro side of mid-range than the control side of mid-range, but definitely not full aggro. We're more mid-rangey. Just don't think I can justify the treasure map. I could see a lot of games where that just sits there being really slow, not doing much. I don't know what I want to do for this last cut here. We could cut a creature or a non-creature. I don't want to cut the hammer. I could see it not being like incredible here, because we don't have that many things that it's great to throw a hammer onto, like a Guidewing or a Lurker Bat or a Dawn Runner. We have like those three really good cards to put the hammer on, but not much else that we care too much. But this is also main deckable artifact enchantment removal that, if we use it, ends up in our grave for our craft with artifact cards, which we have 3 of in here. Or if it's sitting on the board, like we can craft it off the board for these cards as well, which is nice. Although I don't think I'd ever want to exile a Deconstruction Hammer to craft a Sovereign's Weapon here. But I would for a Clayfire Bricks or a Blade Wheel Chariot here. It'd be worth it. Maybe double Militia's a bit much, but I think we've got some good non-creature permanents running around. One of the things I like a lot about the Idol over the double Sunfire Torch is that the Idol gets to hit the board and stick around after we use it as removal. The torches are like the opposite. Like, you play them and they stick around until you use them for removal, then they're not there anymore. Yeah, I like having the Idol, the Tinker's Tote, the Bricks, the Saw Blades just sitting there for Sunshot Militias or Gold Fury Striders. I like the non-creature spells basically just a lot. But I guess I could start with one less of these big creature removal spells and just side in depending on the matchup. Or, again, we just cut one of the more filler creatures out somewhere on the curve. This might be a little greedy, but I do like the potential synergy of Scallywag with double Wanderglyph, and I think Wanderglyphs are just our best 2-mana creatures. We're not going to cut those. So if I wanted to cut anything at 2 mana, it might be the 1 Militia, but we've got keeping all these in to try to get those Militias really going. 3 mana Envoy of Okanekaha would easily be the cut, but it is nice to have like a mana sink in the deck. Definitely not dropping the Surveyor. And I like keeping all this top end in here and sealed where things are a bit slower. I don't think I want to drop any of these cards out. I think they're all perfectly solid in this kind of format. Cut 1 Envoy or like cut 1 Rock Slide. Whirlpool does the same thing as Rock Slide for the most part. Sometimes for cheaper, sometimes at instant speed. Usually for a little more expensive though, but at instant speed. And it clears anything out by exiling, which is nice. I think I prefer the Whirlpool to the Rock Slide. I'm not 100% confident on that, but I think it is one of these for the non-creature cut. I guess we could cut the Idol as well, but I'm playing a little too much around having stuff sitting around for Militia or Strider. Maybe I'm caring a little too much about that. And we keep the 2 big removals and cut that small one, since the Chomp is so much more mana efficient. One of these 4 cards, I'm pretty confident. Could be a land as well. We've got a Scampering Surveyor to pick up a land. We have a Carnosaur, well, no, not a Carnosaur, a Sandwing that we can Plane Cycle. We have 2 Wanderglyphs to dig through the deck. But this we can play around with for 7 mana, this we can do for 4. The average is already 3.1, and it's going to feel a little higher than that with these. Although Clayfired Bricks also picks up land, so that's another consideration for having more lands in the deck. Or for us feeling like we have more lands in the deck. Like we're going to have, anytime we draw this, we draw an extra land that game. Anytime we've drawn this, we've drawn an extra land that game. I don't know how this is going to play out for us, but I guess with Bricks plus Surveyor, maybe we can just drop a land here. I don't love Captivating Cave in a 2-color deck. Yes, the ability to crack it, put 2+1/+1 counters on something is solid when you're flooding out, but having to filter mana through this ever is pretty bad, so an opening hand that is a plains, a captivating cave, and some 1/2 mana spells between both of our colors is so much worse than an opening hand that's just a mountain of plains and all those spells. Because then theoretically, if we're not drawing exactly a mountain with that opener, we're spending 3 mana on Wanderglyphs and 4 mana on Raptors. That could be in that hand. So, yes, as a late game draw, Captivating Cave is always going to be better than the mountain, but as an early game draw, it's going to be much worse. They're basically both just as likely, right? Because you start the game drawing 7 cards immediately. So you're going to see 7 cards per game right off the bat. If the game lasts long enough that you draw 7 more cards, then I guess things don't really count as late game draws until, I don't know, turn 4 onward is when I would say Captivating Cave's much better than a mountain as a draw. So in games that go at least 11 turns, where we've drawn 11 extra cards, then Captivating Cave would have been just as likely to have been an early game land draw as it is a late game land draw, because we have the initial 7 in our opening hand. The 4 next draws I would still count as early game draws. So that'd be 11 early game draws. And then the next 11 turns are the 11 late game draws we see. So I guess that would be like 15 turn game, right? Because the first 4 turns we're counting as early game draws. I don't know. This is probably all meaningless to everybody, but I'm going to cut Captivating Cave because I feel like on average we'll have more opportunities to draw that early in the game, and we don't want to draw it early. We would prefer the mountain as the land as an early game draw. So I'm just going to run more mountains because I think we'll have more. We'll see more cards drawn in the early game than the late game, because you have to account for having an opening 7 card hand, and mountain is better than Captivating Cave in an opening 7 card hand almost every time. I mean, the other thing that we have to account for is, like, if the opening hand is mountain, 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 and a bunch of white spells, then sure, mountain, mountain, Captivating Cave would have been a little better. But I think I would still want to mulligan that hand anyway, whether it's a Captivating Cave or a mountain. I'm just not going to toy around with the cave. In the mana base, we're going to drop the Captivating Cave, drop a land. We're at a 50-50 split, is that right? 12-11? Good enough for me. Yeah. Really close to 50-50 in the number of spells we have of each color. I'm going to go 50-50. In the mana base, I'm going to call it a deck here. Before we fully go into the deck overview, I want to get a quick glance at a potential deck to sideboard into, seeing if there are any matches where Double Eclipse is going to be an absolute blowout. I like having a picture of a backup black deck to sideboard into so I can just rebuild from that picture. So I want to see if this is a legitimately viable option or something to sideboard into in the right matchup where Eclipse is an absolute blowout, and if it is, I want to get the best build possible, snap a picture of it, and have that set aside so I can side into it real quick when we're in a matchup where it looks good. So first and foremost, we need to see we have 10 total spells out of the black, right? So we're going to need a pretty deep secondary color, because all these other black spells are just not very good. I mean, maybe Brood Rage, but definitely not the Paladin. Definitely not the Gore Stalker or the Fungal Fortitude. We do have our colorless spells that are good, and Treasure Map is probably actually solid in this Grindier deck that's trying to get there off Malicious Eclipses to wipe the board in the early game. So go for the Treasure Map and the Surveyor off of the colorless spells. So for pairing a color with this, I still like our white quite a bit. It plays controlling just as well as it plays aggressive because of cards like Clay-Fired Bricks and Sawblades that sit there drawing lands, sit there as a removal spell in the early game. I think these two are really nice, more controlling plays. Plus we have a land cycler. We've got another removal spell for big stuff with a Quicksand Whirlpool. Black-white looks pretty reasonable to me. We would drop the Landmark, the Acrobatic Leap, and 2 more spells. We go this way. Probably Deconstruction Hammer at this point, because we have so few, like, solid black creatures to throw random equipments like that onto. And then War Scribe, probably, with a lower creature count. So cut these 4. This would be kind of the black-white, more controlling build. We are eclipsing our own creatures here, which is awkward, right? Because we're always going to be eclipsing our own Marionette and Snail, because those are just the good black spells that we have if we end up running them. And we need to be playing enough black to hit double black consistently, so I don't think we can really drop below like 10 black spells, so we can have at least 8 black sources with the double Swamp Cycler for Eclipse. So it is still consistent to cast early. So I think we're just always going to have that awkward non-synergy of having 1/1s with Eclipse. But playing white as the secondary color does exacerbate that with 2 more 1/1s, well, 3 more cards that die to it, as well as a Tinker's Tote, so like 4 more creatures that die to the Eclipse than we would otherwise. Yeah, our creatures are actually really awkward with the Malicious Eclipse, because we also have the Primordial Gnars that die to it, but at least if a Primordial Gnar dies to a Malicious Eclipse, it will discover, because Eclipse only exiles opponent's creatures. So if we eclipse our own Gnar, then we still discover, which is something. So, yeah. I mean, this looks fine. I'll snap a screen cap, just in case. But I feel like we'll probably find a more synergistic support color, hopefully, and if we don't, probably just won't end up sideboarding into this. Black-blue here, similar issues with a lot of 2 toughness creatures early. Really not a fan of the counterspells in this format. The Pilgrimage is completely unplayable in this sealed pool. I guess we probably grind out fine with Echo, Council of Echoes, and Brinefang. Cut 7 cards. I mean, this just looks worse than the black-white deck. Any Reminiscence? Yeah, something like this, but just looks worse than the other build. I guess black-red would make a lot of sense because we get the Carnosaur in the deck. So even a sideboard isn't like a full sideboard, just swap white for black. Cut 7 cards. Probably this. I mean, throwing in a couple Wanderglyphs and a Scallywag that die to the Malicious Eclipse. We're also throwing in more 2 damage removal with the Idol and the Chomp. That'll be good against the kind of decks that Eclipse are good against. And obviously we get a Trumpeting Carnosaur. But just because this Carnosaur is so good and we have some more interaction in red, this feels better than the black-white deck. By a little bit, but the Eclipse versus these 2/2s is awkward. And obviously, like, this isn't like black being a really good color that's competing with white, really, to be the final build of the deck. It's just, it's entirely like if we find a really good matchup for Malicious Eclipse, we side into it, because if we want to build a black-red deck that doesn't have like the awkward Malicious Eclipse plays, then we just have 8 black spells, some of which are kind of filler. It's just worse than the white. I'm very confident that red-white is the core deck here. Just seeing what our best Malicious Eclipse sideboard deck is, and awkwardly, it's probably just still jamming red. But we'll see. Let's check that last color real quick and see if black-green looks like anything. Alright, first of all, I can only cut 2 cards here, which is already awkward. Over the Edge and Disturbed Slumber are the worst ones. But now our deck is a little less weak to the Malicious Eclipses, where we're not killing as many of our own creatures, but that's just because we don't have early game creatures. We are slamming down some big blockers with Mineshaft Spiders and Colossadactyls turn 4 onward. So the dream here is that our opponent just slams down cheap creatures, we eclipse all of them and then jam out stuff that's too big for their small creatures to block. It's probably reasonable. But even in a matchup where I think Eclipse plays pretty well, it's probably better to still just jam the black-red deck because of the consistency. But even in a matchup where Malicious Eclipse plays pretty well, I feel like it's still probably better to play the black-red deck for the consistency when we don't draw into Eclipse. Right, like this deck just completely loses if it doesn't draw Eclipse. If we're trying to side into Malicious Eclipse, for a matchup where it's going to play super well, if we have it in the opener, we also want to be playing a deck that isn't going to just get overwhelmed if our opponent's game plan is Goblin Tomb Raider, 1 mana 2/2 haste, play a 2 mana 2/2, play a 3 mana 2/2 flyer, right? We want to make it so we don't just insta-scoop if we don't have the Eclipse in hand, and this deck insta-scoops if it doesn't have the Eclipse in hand, and it's playing against a deck that Eclipse is good against. Right, we want to have the upside of, if I draw an opener with Eclipse, I probably just win, without the downside of, if I don't draw the Eclipse, I just lose. And I feel like black-red solves that problem because it has other ways to deal with their small creatures with Triumphant Trump and Idol of the Deep King, and actually having some like 2 mana 2/2s of its own. Right, so where if we're in a matchup where we're siding into the Eclipse and we have the Eclipse in the opener, we can play around it of just like playing Enter the Battlefield effect creatures like Skullcap Snail, or playing 3 toughness creatures like Militia, or just not playing any creatures until we drop the Eclipse. But also, if I don't have the Eclipse in the opening hand, I can still Chomp or Idle or play 2/2s to trade into their 2/2s. And that's just something that the green deck just cannot do. If it doesn't have an Eclipse in its hand, I'm playing like 1/1s that are getting rolled over real quick. I've got like a single 1/3 and 2 1/1s getting added here, and the black creatures are just 1/1s as well. In red, we have some 2 mana 1/3s and some 2 mana 2/2s and some cheap little burn spells. Green doesn't have any removal. Yeah. So our sideboard option, which I don't know if we even want to do, honestly, in the end. If we play against a deck where Malicious Eclipse looks really good, it honestly might be the best to just sideboard specific spells out of red and white, right? Like throw in the Sunfire Torches, find more cheap burn against their little creatures. Yeah, it'll probably play best to just stick to our red-white deck and throw in some more Sunfire Torches and cut like big removal against a deck that's just a million cheap 2/2s. But if we are feeling spicy, if we're feeling feisty, it looks, for whatever reason, like Eclipse is insane, and our other black spells look really good in the matchup, like Tithing Blade or Bitter Triumph or Deathcap Marionette or whatever, then we do have a backup plan deck. Although, I think in a vacuum it is significantly weaker, and probably even in a matchup where Eclipse looks good, it's probably still weaker than just a sideboarded red-white build. But this is pretty much what that deck's going to look like. Cut the Burning Sun Cavalry again because we don't have many dinos. Yep, this would be the red-black Malicious Eclipse sideboard pile. The mana base 10-11 here. So we'll go... With double Eclipse, we really, really importantly need to hit double black early. So we'll go 9 black sources, 8 red sources. And then I'll take a picture of this. And this deck is definitely slower and grindier when it's trying to use board wipes and it's trying to make it in these big 6-drops and stuff. So I think we run both the caves as well as the treasure map. But yeah, this is the backup deck. And I will snap a picture of that. But I don't know how likely it is that we try to move in this direction. Probably not going to happen. But it's better than not having that backup deck in mind. At least we took a peek at it. We know exactly what's available to us. We're not going to be disappointed if we lose some games and be like, well, maybe there was some really good deck we could have sided into that I just didn't think of. It's like, we looked at all the color pairs here. I looked at even more off camera, but I wanted to put that in. And I am very, very confident in our starting Boros build. Not that I'm confident the deck is crazy or incredibly good or anything, but I am confident that it is one of the best decks that the sealed pool is capable of building. Alright, here's a look at the final deck list for today. We're on a Boros mid-range deck with a bit of an aggressive lean. We've got a couple of those little 1-mana 1/1 flyers that are going to be nice ways to start the game to keep chipping our opponent for damage, and if we can slam a Deconstruction Hammer onto one, or maybe later in the game, flip the Sovereign's Weapon onto one of these, that could get a lot of evasive damage in. We've also got a couple Sunshot Militias that are really good at grinding out a bunch of damage in a board stall, and Sealed can end up in a bunch of board stall positions, so having the Militia on board with some random artifacts sitting around, like all these craft artifacts that hit the board, immediately give us some value, and then stick around to get tapped to other spells, all these can play pretty well with those Militias, but we've also got a solid curve of other creatures with some 2-mana 2/2s like Enterprise and Scallywags, and Volatile Wanderglyph. At 3 mana, the creatures beef up to 4 3s and 3 3s, and 1/1 double strikers to curve out with. There's also the Tinker's Tote for providing 3 permanents off the 1 spell, which works great with the 2 Sunshot Militias, and as we get to the higher mana values, we show off the Gold Fury Strider, which is like the beefy Sunshot Militia, another great way to use excess permanents that we control to try to find some extra damage. So, good stuff with that. We've also got the great value play of the Scampering Surveyor, which, even if we don't need the ramp or the extra mana, we can find our hidden volcano with it so that we get to discover later in the game. So even when we're flooded out, the Surveyor gets us some value. When it hits the board, gets us that discover for the next turn. Got some solid top end with an Archaeologist to give us some good value with picking up basically any artifact that's died. It's going to be a decent play. The Malamet War Scribe in the right position can add a bunch of extra damage. And our very top end gives us our huge bomb, the Trumpeting Carnosaur, that is going to be the biggest and best finisher in the deck. For our non-creature spells, we've got interaction throughout the curve with Triumphant Chomp, Spring-Loaded Saw Blades, Idol of the Deep King, Rumbling Rock Slide, and Quicksand Whirlpool. Pretty basic stuff there, but just all the solid stuff we had in the sealed pool. Hopefully this deck plays out pretty well for us, but we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for round 1. Be pretty greedy to keep a 1-lander, but a single land drawn is like drawing 2 lands when we have Clay-Fired Bricks, and we do have a 1-mana play. And any land in the deck lets us cast the bricks. If we hit any land in the entire deck, we can cast the whole hand. As we play the bricks, well, that's not true. If we hit a mountain, we can cast the whole hand. Then we've got the Militias, we've got the Idol, we've got a second Plains off the bricks. But it feels too gambly. We're on the play, so we don't draw on the first turn. And there are 15 lands left in the deck out of 33 cards. So it's a coin flip favored slightly against us. And we need the land like immediately. We need to initially draw that land. Yeah, no, we can't. Unfortunately, can't keep that. This is definitely better, but still pretty awkward. It's got kind of the opposite issue here. It's got the lands, but instead of a bunch of really cheap spells, some high mana value stuff. Gold Fury Strider, with the way this hand is looking, it's just a bunch of individual permanents. I feel like Gold Fury Strider, not looking great right now. We're not going to have a lot of permanents on board by the time we play it. And one thing that's really nice about the Archaeologists is even if we don't have an artifact in graveyard when we go to cast it, we can scry 3 to make sure we draw into the 6th land for the Carnosaur. So that's what makes me want to keep the Archaeologists over the 3/5 artifact dork thing that I forgot the name of. Our opponent's going to start things off with a Tendril of the Myco-Tyrants. They're playing a blue-green deck, so there are plenty of combat tricks they could have, like the Staggering Size for +3/+3, or the Malamet Scythe for +2/+2. That would buff this if I try to kill it after they untap. So I'm going to kill it while they're tapped out, and pass from here. And we'll use the most expensive removal spell so I can be mana efficient on a future turn. Maybe play this and a 3-drop creature if we draw into one. There's a Glimpse the Core from our opponent to grab a forest. Well, this would have been the turn to be mana efficient if we had drawn into... Or not if we drew into a 3-mana spell. If our opponent had played a creature, then we could have played the Tote and the Chomp. Would have been beautiful. I think with an idol on board, I sack this. Even though I could draw into a Sunshot Militia, that makes me kind of want to have that permanent on board. I'm much more likely to end up crafting this at some point, in which case we get extra value by having the Tote Engrave. We get 3 life and we craft the idol, instead of just crafting the idol later. And this looks like the perfect turn to just craft the idol here. I think we do that. 2 mana to equip to move it around. I think I'm going to cash in some extra damage here and throw it on one of these 1/1s. What could our opponent have blue-green? They could like tap down one of our 1/1s. They could Cogwork Wrestler to kill a 1/1. I mean, it's a 1/1 token. Whatever we run into is fine. If I cancel, will it undo my mana here? Thank God. I was going to say, the one thing I shouldn't do here is let it auto-tap. It's significantly better to cast a Miner's Guidewing than hold up a Triumphant Tromp when they have no creatures. The only reason to hold up Triumphant Tromp is if I want to kill their Cogwork Wrestler after they kill one of my 1/1s with it, which I don't really want to do. Alright, just get the damage in and drop the Guidewing. Well, that was a good turn for us. They didn't do anything with all their mana. There's an Armored Kin Collar. We'll see if they have another Dino in hand to gain the life. Oh no. They have a Mega Bomb. This card is one of the S-tier bombs for sure. 5 mana for a 5/3 and 2 0/1s, but the 0/1s turn into 3/3s when they go to combat. So if they play this in their first main phase, it's 5 mana for a 5/3 and a 3/3 and a 0/1. And if it sticks around, those are both 3/3s. So that card is real good. Not the kind of thing I want to see, but not exactly anything I can do about it here. They don't have the red source yet, which is why it hasn't been cast by now, even though they have 6 mana. So we just gotta hope they don't find the red source. If they do, literally, beacon it shall happen. If they're gonna cast the Hatcher here, that was not good sequencing. So I imagine they're not casting the Hatcher this turn? Okay. Bristleback it's gonna be. Oh, the Hatcher also gives their other dinos haste? Yeah, that's terrifying. Alright. Might have been better to move our equipment to our flyer than hold up the removal here, because I don't really want to discard this Carnosaur if I can avoid it. And currently there's nothing I want to kill with it anyway. But I guess I could have killed the Hatcher before they made dinosaurs out of the eggs. That is an interesting question, isn't it? Is it worth it to discard the Carnosaur before they go to combat so that their 0/1s remain 0/1s? It probably is. Which means I have to hold the 3 up for that here. Luckily, I have a solid way to do that. The problem now is that I'm dying to the 5/5. There's a lot of value from casting this thing, plus it's a 7-power dino to go with the Chomp. So it is hard to decide to just do this. But if I just do it, I'm basically killing a 5/3 and 2 3/3s. We don't even know if we're drawing the mana we need. I'm at 20 life here? This might be wrong, but at 20 life, maybe we can outrace, and Carnosaur definitely helps. 7/6 trample and a 7 damage removal spell. Oh my god, alright, they go right to combat again, so no Polani's Hatcher this turn either. Take it. It's gonna be hard to outrace them here. We are taking a lot of damage. Especially once the Hatcher gets going. But really gonna depend what the Carnosaur finds us. We're gonna be spinning the roulette wheel there for sure. Cogwork Wrestler would be kind of gross here. They are kind of heavy blue, it looks like. They could have that -2, -0. They still kill only one of these two, and this way we kill the Kincaller through a Cogwork Wrestler. But something like a Staggering Size will play worse for us now if they want to give +3/+3 trample. Although Staggering Size is going to be really bad for us at any point of this game. +3/+3 trample could just randomly kill us later. Relatively soon, kind of later. I guess I might as well do this, because then we still kill it through a Staggering Size. And we don't lose any additional creatures to a Cogwork Wrestler, we just lose one. There are some tricks that would get us here. I'm confident there's tons of different tricks, but I think this plays around most of them. +2/+2 will still kill the Kincaller through +2/+2, but they'll kill all the creatures. Final Strike. Yep, instant speed removal is the one that would get me. Or instant speed bounce. And play a River Herald Guide from opponents. Desperately need that mana to stabilize. Don't find it. So now we have to play a Sunshot Militia and cycle the Carnosaur to kill the Hatcher, because they're probably doing that next turn. At this point, they have like nothing else to do. Hopefully. They've had so much other stuff. Yeah, 4/4 is not helping against the 5/5 anyway. Although 1/3 body really doesn't help. Just look really dead here, I think. I don't know how this happened, but I forgot to play my Militia. Though I do not think it will matter. That is definitely concerning, though. Gotta get some more sleep, drink some more water. I don't know what that's about. Not casting the spell I explicitly said I was going to cast. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have to block here and go to 1. Alright, well, we had no shot either way, but if I played Militia, I would get to trade into a 3/3 and trump the Bristleback and go to 4, so obviously that was the play. I forgot skull emoji. Okay, so I think that's really the only thing I could have done much differently, was actually play Militia last turn. We could have tried to trade a Gnome into one of these 3/1s earlier for a little more breathing room, but still not finding the 6th land if I hadn't cycled Carnosaur to kill the Hatcher means I don't think that would have mattered either. So yeah, if we resolved Militia here, we'd be at 3 more life. I'd be at 4 and they'd have 1 less creature, which is still astronomically dead, however I play it out here. Okay. That last turn, hunt didn't end up mattering, but maybe some different sequencing early, aggressively going for blocks with this equipment on the gnome to try to clear out a 3/3 somewhere. Maybe just getting individual blocks with gnomes onto stuff. But I don't know. They just slammed out some beefy 2-for-1s. And we just could not get to our one big explosive play. Yeah, they're just a green deck, so they have much bigger stuff than we could handle. At least with that hand. We do have Saw Blades, we do have the Whirlpool, but trading these 1-for-1 removal spells into multiple dinosaurs that spit out additional bodies like Bristleback and Hatcher is going to put us behind in cards. Matchup looks rough. Maybe a deck building kind of thing that we could have done differently there, since we have the Carnosaur. Since we had the Carnosaur in hand, was maybe the 17 land version of the deck. Plays better there, because we might have hit that land. A bunch of really tiny things we could maybe change. Not winnable gameplay-wise. Our black sideboard is terrible here. It's just a bunch of green beef where we don't even have a sideboard in red-white. Our sideboard is against smaller stuff. Hello? There we go. Acrobatic Leap, Landmark Envoy. Yeah, none of those do anything. None of these do anything. I guess Ancestor's Aid might help a smaller creature trade up. Works well against just like 3/3s in general. We could go Ancestor's Aid over like one of the Durley 5-drops like a War Scribe or something. This has a good enter the battlefield effect, but the body itself is going to play poorly later. They have a lot of 3/1s and 3/3s and stuff. That a 4/3 stat line is just awkward. So maybe drop a War Scribe for an Ancestor's Aid. And it's kind of like another half a mana source giving us the treasure token, but we could cut something for a 17th land. Still don't think I'd do that. We have a Planecycler, we have the bricks. We now have an Ancestor's Aid for 1 treasure. We've got the 4-drop that pulls out a land. Alright, that's hesitant keep. At least we didn't have to mulligan this game. So we'll start with a full 7. Not gonna trigger the Descended thing, but 2 damage is more than 1, and I have nothing to tap for Militia right now, so see if we start jamming in for 2. Inverted Iceberg, yeah, our opponent definitely has better late game in their deck, so pretty happy to just slam down a 4/3 and try to beat in for as much damage as I can before they establish good blocks. This is quality stuff from our opponent. They hit the splash off the River Herald Guide. That's definitely good. And River Herald Guide stacks up really really great against our 4/3 Raptor. Play a Bricks and a Militia here that guarantees the 5th mana for a Gold Fury Strider. And an Archaeologist. Suppose something has to clear out the guide at some point, and if Scallywag is still on board when Raptor trades for guide, we get a treasure, which is not useless because we can tap the treasure towards Gold Fury Strider or Sunshot Militia. Got 1 combat trick in this deck. Yeah, we're not likely to... I mean, if we flip the bricks later, I guess we get to a position where Raptor's too big to trade into a single River Herald Guide. Yeah. I'm going to tap the Raptor because threatening to trade a militia into the River Herald Guide might mean they don't want to attack in with it, but if I keep the Raptor untapped, they definitely just get free damage in, because I've already shown them I don't want to take that trade. So we haven't seen any combat tricks from them yet. All we saw, well, they milled the staggering size, but we saw the Watley's final strike, basically. Okay, so we get the trade. We basically have bigger Sunshine Militia in hand anyway, so I think we take that trade every time. It's a Kin Collar. And they have the Bristleback. That is a yikes. I probably should have cut the Idol. Although it does work against their River Herald guides. We saw those game one. Maybe that was one thing we could do. We don't have anything on the side that's really good here, but we do have cards in the main deck that aren't that good here, like the Idol. That could get swapped out. It's their turn 5 now. We would be super, super happy if they miss a land drop at all to keep them from the 7 on that Bristleback, but nope. It is land 5, turn 5. They're just going to final strike the Raptor. Which makes Chomp a pretty awkward draw now, because now the 4-power Dino's gone. Do some scrying, I guess, right? Huh. We've got a great 7-mana thing to do. So 6 land gets us there. I don't think 1-for-1 removaling the 5/5 when they're also getting a 2/2 is going to be awesome for us, but we've got a wide enough board state that it's still probably a fine draw. This is so awkward because like all of these could be okay. If I want the land though, I probably don't want the Whirlpool. Although no, 8 is going to give me the treasure, so I can have treasure and land, and then I can flip by sacking the treasure and exiling the idol. So we can keep all these, and I know I'll have my 7 mana, and I get to use the 8 combat trick and then have this for another removal. Guess we do that. We've got a game plan. Kill them before they get a million dinos. Hey, Malcolm. Yeah, you are a little butthead, aren't you? The instant speed rare. But it gives us a good target for idle. Making a quick list of instants if we make it to game 3 to keep in mind. Staggering size, Watley's final strike, and Malcolm. Draw a card, discard a card, probably looking for that 7th land. Although an artifact would be good too. Discard an artifact, then flip the iceberg. Would be pretty gross. Discard a chart, of course. And a Hoverstone Pilgrim, a gigantic blocker here. Well, I've got that Ancestor's Aid. Which will let me flip my clay-fired bricks next turn if that ends up mattering. This cannot shoot their face. I need to keep that in mind with whatever I do here. I have 2 points of direct damage off the idol. That ward is so annoying. I have to ditch both my treasures if I want to win this fight. You can put them to 2. Ditch the treasures, I guess. I do not love this, because then they're just going to play a land and bristleback me, and we're not going to hit them again. But that's also why I'm doing this, right? Like, if I just cash in for 2 extra damage with the final strike, and then 2 with the idol, I can put them down to 2, but then they have, like, infinite blockers, and I just have a burn spell in hand. Do have an artifact engrave. So if we descend with the Scallywag one more time, that could get us to the bricks for 7. We don't even need to exile the idol, although we have the idol on board to exile, so just chill either way. There's the 7 for that freaking bristleback, and I think kind of just does us in. Don't have much response to that. They are at 6. They are at 6, so we threaten lethal with Archaeologists and basically force a trade. The 4-4 into the 5-5 here. And then we'll have descended this turn. Get a treasure. So I can flip clay-fired bricks next turn by exiling my equipment. They do have an artifact engraved for the 6-6 now, which is bad. And they've got the Tendril to start turning lands into 7-7s. They don't have the mana to do it immediately, so if I whirlpool that right now, that's the only way I stop them from getting a bunch of 7-7s. At Clay-Fired Bricks, this is a 5-3. It just trades into the 3-3 anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kill this over just killing a 6-6. Because every land they draw is gonna be a 7-7 for the rest of the game. This is my last opportunity to guaranteed get something off their board by attacking, because next turn they have a 6/6 against my 4/2. Or my 5/3. I still think that trade is like enough not worth it. Just not attack. We're at 18, so we have some breathing room. Titan's gonna tap one of my blockers down every turn. Yeah, maybe we actually do just have to trade with the Scallywag here. Next turn they keep tapping down whatever I put the equipment onto, if I top deck a land. If I don't top deck a land, then I'm exiling the equipment. So they just keep tapping down the biggest dork. I guess with the Titan on the board to keep tapping down blockers, I kind of have to do that. Okay, top deck war here. It's a pretty even top deck war, because we've got a much bigger life total, but they have a bigger board. Really now. Well, I guess that is how the cookie crumbles. They have double tendril too, and we've got more lands. Well, pretty disappointing start, but I don't think there's much we could have done better. I'm still pretty confident in this deck build. Game 1, maybe we could have traded more aggressively earlier. Well, technically, maybe we could have traded more defensively earlier. When I say traded aggressively, I mean go for trades as quickly as possible. And that would have been by going for trades on blocks with gnomes. So that could have bought us some more time, and then if I played that last turn tight instead of the misplay, then maybe there's some way to stabilize there, but don't really think we could have done too much differently game 2. Yeah. I think we're on the right deck, close to the right plays. Just not a great matchup for us, outclassed by their deck a bit there. Heading into round number 2. This hand's fine because of the Wanderglyph. If we didn't have Wanderglyph, we'd probably have to mull with any other 2-drop. But if this manages to get tapped, even just once, it can help dig out of the flood. Although drawing a 5th Plains as the first draw is really awkward, and this hand scoops to Deep Cavern Bat. It's going to be a rough couple days of Magic, isn't it? The Chaos sealed into this now. And that is definitely just a game-deciding card there, having the Bat turn 2 to rip out the Wanderglyph on the play. If we were on the play, they couldn't even have done that, because we would have dropped the Wanderglyph before the Bat comes out. Got the Chomp for the Bat now, but we don't have double red. We have pentuple white instead. So I can't cast the Wanderglyph the turn I get it back, but it's not like they'll have a second Bat in their hand anyway. They could have the Hexproof trick, or they could have the +1/+3 trick or something. But we have no other options right now anyway, so we just go for it and hope for the best. Neither of those, the +1/+3 and the creatures you control gain hexproof, neither of those are very popular cards, especially in sealed, so I feel like that probably works out for us, and it did for now. But they could have another chance where they mill 2, pick up a creature, and so of course they milled another creature, so they don't even go down in value. Where they cycle it for the Deep Cavern Bat. Nope, they hit a creature off of the 2 coin flips. I actually weighted coin flips against them because most of the time slightly less than half of your deck is creatures. Because 17 creatures is 3 less than half your deck. I'm not having fun playing Magic right now. Not this weekend. Not this weekend. Well, at this point we play the bigger card, I think. Actually pretty nice to mill that with Archaeologists in hand. So now they get to drop a Roaming Throne, and we don't have removal for it because the bat took our removal. So whatever they want to double up, they want to double up horror abilities. What fresh hell is this? I'm looking up Lost Caverns of Ixalan horrors. Chupacabra Echo? Chupacabra Echo or Primordial Gnar. Starving Revenant is the rare one, so that's the least likely. I imagine I'm about to get just absolutely demolished by some double Chupacabra Echoes. Because the kind of decks that like to play Another Chances are definitely the kind of decks that like to play Chupacabra Echoes. I'm just going to discover a Malicious Eclipse. So Dawnrunner and Bat would die, so they're just going to put it in their hand instead. Send in the squad? Nope, don't send in the Roaming Throne. If I play like one Wanderglyph, all of a sudden Malicious Eclipse is like in their favor at this point. Oh, never mind. Now that Eclipse doesn't kill my Dawnrunner anymore because my Dawnrunner already traded off, I think Malicious Eclipse is still in my favor even if they kill 2 Wanderglyphs, so I'm going to be mana efficient and do it. Right, because they spend an Eclipse and a Bat to kill a Wanderglyph and a Wanderglyph. So they spend 2 cards to kill 2 of my cards, and they give me back my Rock Slide. I think it's slightly in our favor if they choose to spend mana to do that. That is not slightly in our favor, because they keep the bat and we lose 2 creatures. They have the rare board wipe. That is an insane card because it lets them choose 1 creature with power 2 or less for each player. So they give us our worst creature with power 2 or less, and they keep their best one with power 2 or less. And then not only that, but it flips into a creature. So it's a board wipe that guarantees you have a big beefy finisher right afterward. So it's not good for us. Things aren't looking good. But we knew that from turn 2 when they Deep Cavern batted one of our Wanderglyphs. This game is definitely Team 16 lands, I can tell you that much. Game 1 of round 1 was not. That was Team 18 lands. Cast a spell, I can't attack. If I attack, I can't cast a spell. And they have a 5/3 flyer. So I can't attack anyway because that thing's massive. Clay-Fired Bricks is a pretty nice draw. The problem with this, though, is if I flip it, they can just eclipse everything but my Wanderglyph, and they'll keep their... well, these are both Wanderglyphs. They can eclipse everything but my volatile Wanderglyph, and they'll keep their Sand Swirl Wanderglyph. Just got stun locked by the fact that these are the same kind of thingamabob, I guess. There's a 4/4 flyer. There's a Sunshot Militia. None of our plays really do anything here. Just flip some bricks. Oh shoot, I guess I could have done both if I played my land first. The perks of the way that craft works. It's so nice, you can just cancel that. It feels like cheating. Get your takesies backsies. Their entire board is flying, so we might as well ping like nobody's business. Not that it matters much against the life gain. I imagine Eclipse is coming soon, but whenever they Eclipse, I can kill one of their flyers, because I'll get my Rock Slide back. God, I'm taking 9 now if I don't trade. Well, not trade, if I don't chump, even. So I'm dead in 2 swings either way. I can gain 2 and take 4, where I take 2 damage basically, and I'm at 11. But then I have no flyers left, so next turn I'm at 11, they hit for 10? I guess that's not 2 swings. But if they have any, like, tricks at all, then I die in 2 swings. I'm gonna give it one more turn. Next turn I block there and I go to 1, just like if I didn't. Oh shoot, I guess... I was gonna say, I guess this way I die in 2 swings, but the other way I go to 1, even if they Eclipse. Now I think I have to Rock Slide the Guardian and Carnosaur the Wanderglyph. I can't play my Carnosaur without dying. So I have to shoot the Wanderglyph with it, which is really depressing. But Carnosaur is a really good draw here. Speaking of really good cards, being able to pick up your board wipe to just cast again is absolutely disgusting. So it seems pretty good to have the Mischievous Pup with the Glyph Bridge here. They crack back for 3. They're going to play a +1/+1 counter or combat trick. I think I just let them kill me here. Let's just get damage. Alright, they're just going to trade. God, we're like infinite cards down. Because they like 3-for-1 board wiped us twice. And they have a 3rd board wipe in hand. Not even 3-for-1 board wipe, right? If they killed like 3 of our creatures with this thing, that's immediately a 3-for-1 board wipe. But then they also flipped it into a bomb creature that I had to spend removal on. So like 4 or 5-for-1 us. It just doesn't feel remotely winnable. But we got 2 more games. Although this matchup doesn't feel remotely winnable. Good card is good. Need something that can stop 2 creatures from hitting me. That ain't it, Chief. 0-1 to start off round number 2. Opponent has a decent amount of 2 toughness and less creatures with the bat and the pup, the Sunscribe and the Glorifier. Still don't know if it's enough to want to throw like the torches in. Still happy with the idol and the chomp though, where I don't want to cut those. Try to play around knowing that our opponent has infinite board wipes, because they have the rare board wipe and ways to pick it up and a malicious eclipse. But I don't think we have great tools for this match up. The +1/+3 untap and flying might actually be okay against some of these beefy flyers. Probably better than like throwing the Ancestors 8 in at the very least. Deconstruction Hammer is definitely good. Rock Slide's a little slow, but I still liked clearing out the big 4/4 flyer with it. Maybe drop like another card that dies to Eclipse. Drop the Scallywag or something. I don't know, Scallywag for a leap seems whatever. Heading into game 2 of round number 2 now. Decent start, turn 1 bat, turn 3 envoy. A decent start just got better. Now we have something to do with the 2 mana in the middle there. Slap a Deconstruction Hammer onto the Ruin Lurker Bat. Might as well have Deep Cavern Bat turn 2 every game. Why not? Tinker's Tote to muck things up on the ground. Is this the same game? Deep Cavern Bat into Roaming Throne again? On Horror again. I could spend 5 mana and decommission this Roaming Throne. Our opponent never ended up casting a Horror last game, though. Unless they have exactly like Ravenous Chupacabra to play next turn or just some Horror, then it's better to just jam out the Gold Fury Strider and start going ham with the Ruin Lurker Bat. Yeah, I think we're going ham with the bat here. Visage doesn't do anything. Vanguard doesn't really change things here. They can gain some life off that tote. That'll give them some breathing room. I think I have enough life to just really go for it here. And tap an additional 1/1. Just tap my whole board. Go to 33 and put them to 7, which is essentially 11, because they can gain 3 from the tote and 1 from the bat. They're going to hold up the bat for a chump blocker here. Could be block plus combat trick also. Oh, there's a horror. Insect horror. Let's discover some nonsense. That is not a bad discovery. They are tapped out of sacking the tote right now, so they're going to have to chump with Deep Cavern Bat. If they don't want to go to like 1. They have 10 toughness on their board. What if I juice up the Strider? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 power against 10 toughness. Yeah, no, it's just juicing the bat again. Play around the exile a tapped creature, 5 damage to a tapped creature spell here. Alright, cool. We get our idol back. Scry 1. Don't think I keep that right now. There's the removal for the bat. Hello there. I'm playing around top deck board wipe here. I believe they did scry to the top. This makes it a tiny bit more likely than just a blind top deck. They're at 8. I can make the Strider 4 power by putting the hammer on it, and I can tap 1, 2, 3, 4. I can trigger it twice. I can make it 8 power, but they have more than 8 toughness. But I clear most of the board, and it plays way better against a board wipe than slamming down the Sandwing. Whoa. Clicking a little too fast. I want to tap that towards this ability. So clear a path for everybody else if they don't have a board wipe, and if they do have a board wipe, I'm keeping my threat. They want to... they've got the Tinker's Tote. They've got the Tinker's Tote. That's fair. I was gonna say, it is surprising they want to do that. With the Tinker's Tote, this is probably fine for them. Spinning out 1/1s here. Definitely just holding all my mana up. Now I can spit out a 1/1 or I can play the idol. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and once I tap out for this, they'll use the tote while I'm close to tapped out. Yeah. They're at 6 again. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. I can make a 1/1 and cast an idol. Or I can just play a Sandwing and that's it. Kills them in 2 turns either way, so let's kill them in 2 turns off Militia here, because we can hold up idle while doing it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Still just kill them though, right? Put them to 4 by playing the idol, then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 permanents. I just need 8 to kill them. So I just make another 1/1. Okay. 1-1 in round 2. They're gonna be on the play now. Fairly certain we're still running things back here. Oh, I guess I could put the Scallywag back in. I want to go back to the initial deck. I did put an Acrobatic Leap in here. I still felt like the Acrobatic Leap looks decent. It looked like it would have been decent this game, even when they didn't really draw the flyers. But it definitely would have been good for clearing out one of the giant flyers that was beating us down last game. Cross our fingers. Run it back for game 3. Zoolander, but we're on the draw. We have a turn 1 and 2 play. Got a couple cheap pieces of removal, because if they're on the aggressive, which they will be since they're on the play, then this is 3 mana removal against whatever they're attacking with. The amount of hand disruption they have is just, it's frustrating for sure. With all the bats and the visages. Every single game turn 2, they've looked at our hand and made us discard our best play. All 3 games of this round. But sometimes you just top deck a super reasonable play for the turn, and you do that instead. I just plain cycle the Sandwing next turn. So they probably don't play anything I need to interact with anyway. Yeah, we're not spending removal on a Tinker's Tote. Although hitting the 3rd mana means I can hold up the Idol and then plain cycle the Sandwing during their end step. Gemguard, that is not a target for the Idol. Is a target for the Whirlpool once we hit 6 mana or once they attack with it. I could decommission it. But then I'm not guaranteed to hit land 4 next turn. If I spend all my mana to decommission Hammer the Gemguard right now. So I guess even if that ends up being what we want to play, we still plain cycle now and then decommission after attacking next turn. Because we really need some more lands with this hand. Gold Fury Strider really makes me want to keep as many of these permanents on board as possible. To try to win the same way we won game 2. Just a juiced up flyer. So I think I'm trying to just Whirlpool the Gemguard. Ideally. So we can leave the Hammer on board for an additional 1 every turn by giving +1/+1 and an additional 1 from the Gold Fury Strider. Deathcap Marionette, probably the Idol of the Deep King target. Because then Strider can try to attack in on the ground. If they attack with Gemguard, we cast the Whirlpool. If we don't need to cast it, so we cast the Idol to have more permanents on board for the Strider. Okay, they don't attack with it, so we don't have to cast our Thingamabob. I guess if they have their own Acrobatic Leap, that'll just demolish our Guidewing here pretty handedly. Do not find land 5. Sadness on the stack. Nothing good to flip the Idol with here. Although now... Actually, if they Acrobatic Leap the Gemguard, I just decommission Hammer it anyway still. I was going to say, now I can decommission Hammer the Gemguard so I can keep my Whirlpool for something else, and then get some value by being able to craft this with that Hammer engrave and still have my plus power on the Guidewing. I need 3 mana up to decommission Hammer or Whirlpool, though, which means I don't get to play Wanderglyph right now. Cave Crawler for a card draw engine. At least it shoots them in the face every time they use it. Did find land 5. I can kill that immediately with Whirlpool right when it declares the attack, but the fact that it pokes me for 1 doesn't really matter. It's the fact that when they declare the attack, they draw a card. So, because they draw that card either way, I think it's fine to Whirlpool it next turn during our main phase. Because they'll have drawn the card even if I instantly Whirlpool it when they declare the attack. So let them draw that first card, but Whirlpool it next turn. And I'm cashing in damage here. Let them crack back a little bit harder with these gnomes. But hit them a little harder because now they're even losing life off their extra card draw. So they're at 14. And we're just hoping to go nasty with Gold Fury Strider again if we're lucky. If they have their board wipe, it's insane here. They wipe the board except for their Cave Crawler and our Guidewing. I mean, I guess at least our board state isn't very wide right now, but yeah. The fact that they can just kill everything but keep the Cave Crawler is really good. Alright, well that was really good for our opponent. I need to keep a way to kill this Wanderglyph. A 3/1 flyer will do it. And if the Guidewing dies somehow, I can still kill it with Wanderglyph with +1/+3. So I think it's reasonable to Whirlpool the Cave Crawler so they stop drawing cards. 3 mana to do that. I can Whirlpool the Cave Crawler and play the Wanderglyph, or I can Whirlpool the Cave Crawler, play the Clayfire Bricks. I'm gonna play the Clayfire Bricks. Get towards that 7 mana to flip them. I guess the argument for exiling the Glyph Bridge, or for not exiling the card draw card, is that then I can exile the Glyph Bridge so they can't have graveyard recursion for it, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was that they could recur it from the board. We didn't see anything in their deck that can pick up an artifact from their grave. We saw ways to pick up creatures from their grave, but this is an artifact only when it's in their graveyard. I don't think exiling it is any better than just having it die. Alright. Can't do anything else, because if I attack, I can't cast spells. Oh, that's what we've got here. Just poke. Maybe it was better to play Wanderglyph Hold Up Leap. That's irritating. Now the bat just trades into the Guidewing? Well, no, because we flipped the Clayfired Bricks. Yeah, I probably should have jammed out the Wanderglyph. Just waited for damage for now. I've got one piece of artifact recursion in my deck. If I draw into the Archaeologists, it's gonna be rough that I don't just pick up like Gold Fury Strider. Still feels better to flip bricks, because I can flip my bricks and get an attack in here. Trade into this Wanderglyph, and then I'm free to cast whatever I want. Although I have to outrace their lifelinker with a bunch of ground troops from there. I can have a wide, beefy board state with +1/+1 to everybody. You know what? Take the turn off here. Then I can flip the bricks next turn after I have a wider board state, so I can declare attacks with more creatures. And I can flip the bricks without exiling my best artifact engraved, so I can still pick that up if I draw into the archaeologists. They probably have Malicious Eclipse in hand here. They have the double board wipe. They're just waiting for me to flip bricks now. So Wanderglyph triggers even if I kill it this turn. If I kill it, I can't attack this turn. If I flip my clay-fired bricks, I can attack with basically everybody, threatening a good chunk of damage. Probably end up getting the Deep Cavern Bat to chump block, and then they just Malicious Eclipse me. I don't think I can win against Malicious Eclipse. I don't see any lines to where if they have Malicious Eclipse for -2/-2 to everybody, I can end up in a favorable position. Go ham. Then they eclipse us, but then we rock slide the Wanderglyph. And then we cross our fingers and hope to just draw like an absolute champion. Because if I don't flip the Cosmium Kiln here, if I just rock slide a Wanderglyph, I don't get to declare any attacks this turn. And then they just eclipse us next turn anyway, to where my board state's going to be 2/2/2s against their like 5 spells in hand. I don't think that's really much better. But this is way better if they don't have the eclipse. And if they're just trying to play like some instant speed removal, survive or something. Uh-oh. That doesn't look like Eclipse. Oh, God, really? Well, this is also way better against Mischievous Pup. But if they have Mischievous Pup to double board wipe us again, doesn't matter, we still lose. But we found the best line possible. Because the other line of rock sliding the Wanderglyph would have been so bad against the Mischievous Pup. Never mind, they have like 4 board wipes. Oh boy. They get the Terror Tide us, still have an unstable Glyph Bridge in hand. And freaking they'll maybe draw into a Malicious Eclipse. If I equip this, then this is going to die to unstable Glyph Bridge. Our only shot is that this Dawn Runner somehow lives and then kills them. And if I put this on there, then the one spell that I know is in their hand will kill the Dawn Runner. So I'm not putting the equipment on there. There's a Sandwing. They have 1 mana up. They're at 9. Hold the frickin' phone, everybody. 1 black mana does absolutely nothing in this format, right? Another Chance, Bitter, Triumph, Fanatical Offering, Join the Dead, Fungal. There's no 1 black mana instance in this format. $10? 10 damage! Get out, opponent. Give me some gems before I leave this event, please and thank you. That is a 2-1 victory. Fighting for our life in the second round of the Qualifier Weekend Day 1, and now we are leaving with at least 1,000 gems, and we're not on the immediate 0-2 drop out of the event. So that feels pretty good. Things were looking so rough there. Basically that entire round, our opponent's deck was very, very good. Multiple board wipes and ways to recur and recast the board wipes and stuff. Some crazy things going on there, but sometimes you can just blow your opponent out of nowhere with a double striker for 10. What a way to end that game. Incredibly lucky ending to that, and really nice to not just get a full all-loss run here. We got at least 1 win in here, but we'll see if we can't get some more as we head into round 3. Here we are on the play for game 1 of round number 3. We need to draw quite a few lands here. Obviously, ideally one of those being a white source, but getting to the Carnosaur is crazy, and even if we don't get there, it's a 3-mana removal spell. So I'm going to keep this hand and definitely hope for the best on these draws. Five drops a super bad draw here, especially the double white one. That's going to be really hard to cast. Well, we've lost our first couple coin flips for lands here. Probably should poke them for 1 here. Yeah, they're blue-whites. They're not going to have hasters. Later in the game, I think it's basically always better to just hold up Militia, but at this point, I think it's actually... I just missed a point of damage for nothing, basically. Chomp the flyer, and we have found the white source. Alright, sloppy early turn here. We lost 1 point of damage for no reason. So if we lose this game by 1 point of life, that is self-imposed. Blue, white, and red from our opponent. See, I just knew they were playing red the whole time, and I wanted to play around Goblin Tomb Raider. I actually just secretly already knew they were playing red. Oaken Siren getting juiced up by the map token. Yep, it's a 2/3 Flying Vigilance. And we don't know how long it's going to take to draw 3 more lands. At this rate, it's going to be quite some time, and a 2/3 Flying Vigilance is kind of a big deal, so I am very tempted to shoot it for 3 damage, but I suppose we also have the option of just decommission hammering it. If I decommission hammer it, I might still have the Carnosaur to cast later, but later is much later right now. They have a 3/5 flyer coming up. We got nothing to deal with that. Either way. I'm gonna give up on the Carnosaur here. Gonna clear out the Siren. Poke for 2. This lets us keep the deconstruction hammer. I don't know why I always call it decommission hammer. Lets us keep the deconstruction hammer for some more damage throughout this game, as well as maybe clearing out like a big 6/6 iceberg if they have that in their deck. Or clearing out a Tarian's Soul Cleaver, if that looks like something we'll need to do here. And watch us hit 3 lands in a row since we discarded the Carnosaur. Cannot block this Waterwind Scout anyway. So we might as well attack with the Militia, threatening a combat trick here. Threatening the +1/+3. No reason not to. Alright. They go for the block. Let's get our double ping. Warscribe next turn could end up playing really well for us. Especially if they don't hit... They have to hit exactly a plains to play this Sandwing. Alright, they're going to play Soul Cleaver. Ew, it gives Vigilance? Shoot, I forgot about that part. Getting +1/+1 counters when things die is fine. That's solid. Vigilance too, though. Kind of annoying. Alright. Basic land, let's go, baby. Drop a Warscribe and go ham. I mean, I've drawn my only non-basic, so any land that we draw is a basic, and we'll get the Warscribe down. Dang. Alright. Well, on the plus side, it still would have been a long time before we would cast the Carnosaur. Drop the Dawnrunner, and if we hit any lands off of the Explorer, we can play the Militia the same turn. Nice. We can't block the Flyer anyway, so here we go. The life gain on that Sandwing is going to be huge here. And the 5 toughness. They might flip the clay-fired bricks instead, though. Nope. Sandwing it is. They'll flip the bricks next turn, which gives them a ton of breathing room. Man. That Vigilance has been massive, too. Guess I can blow up the clay-fired bricks for 3 mana and tapping my Militia. And that makes the Soul Cleaver give the Waterwind Scout another counter, and then they have 7 power flyers on board, which kills me in 2 swings. I'm dead in 2 swings no matter what. If I play a Warscribe... +2/+1 to everybody. That's a 4/4, that's a 3/3. 3/2s. The Scout trades if it blocks at all. The Sandwing can kill a 3/3, so that kills this. They take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 + 6, 16 if they don't chump the Scout away. It's gotta just be Warscribe, right? And then we Gold Fury Strider. Next. I mean, Strider super buff the Dawnrunner could be something, but it doesn't have Trample. 1, 2, 3. Give it +6/+0. Yeah, it doesn't have Trample, so I just I just make them chump with the Scout, and then they get 2 1/1s next turn to chump with. Probably. I think I cash in Scribe damage, and then I play Gold Fury Strider. I feel like that's where we're at. Dawnrunner's gonna trade with Sandwing. It's looking good. They'll take everything else? You got it. Yeah, that does give them really, really rough decisions, doesn't it? Now we have 2 Sunshot Militias. They're just gonna die to one of these. sticking around. They can flip the bricks and have 3 blockers up now. But that doesn't gain them any life or anything. And we just tap some stuff to militias. Yeah, that turn was definitely War Scribe as the turn, because the only thing they really could have done differently was trade the Waterwind Scout off too. And then they're at 5 instead. But they have no board left. Yeah, just discover and hope for something insane. Miner's Guidewing is not that. And it looks like we're going to start off round 3 with a victory in the first game. Lots of flyers from our opponent. There is definitely that. 2/2 flyers and 1/1 flyers and stuff, but plenty of ways to buff them to where they might get out of range of our 2 damage removal, like the Waterwind Scout has been. But the Oaken Sirens die to our 2 damage removal as well, if they don't get map tokens used on them. Might throw in a torch or 2. So Rockslide and Whirlpool, these are good at clearing out the 3/5, or after they got the Soul Cleaver on that flyer and made it a 5/5, it would be decent at clearing that out. But I feel like Sunfire Torches are just better. Like, try to be low to the ground here and clear out their small stuff, because they've got a lot of small stuff. They work well with the Scallywags too, which is cute. The one Scallywag. Send with them. I guess it works with the bat for descending. I don't think combat tricks look super awesome here because there's a lot of not blocking going on when they have so many evasive threats, so many flyers in general. I am liking the Sunfire Torches though, in concept. I think I'm gonna go full low to the ground here. I'm gonna go double torch over Whirlpool Rockslide, and then they're gonna play some big bomb on me and we're gonna go back to the initial deck. Probably how it's gonna be. Although, again, fine matchup for Acrobatic Leap. I'll go 1 torch, 1 leap. Call it a deck here. Here we are for game 2 of round 3 with a guaranteed mulligan. Not much better. Just draw land, play a Surveyor for red on 4. I don't think I can mold a 5 though. Okay. This hand is glacially slow. Turn 4 Surveyor, but turn 5 Sandwing. Kind of speed our way into the Sandwing off the Surveyor. Now this is pod racing. There we go. We got a 2-drop. And now the hand's starting to look a little normal with how it's curving out. A little normal. Not great, but not as horrific as it was looking. Turn 3 from our opponent on the play. They are going to drop a Careening Minecart. So next turn, if they play any creatures, they'll be able to crew this, attack, get a treasure. I could equip the hammer to the Scallywag and then hold up the leap, as it untaps. That's pretty cute. And if we don't end up wanting to Acrobatic Leap here, then we pitch the Sandwing. Oh, I just noticed something. I got too excited about maybe untap leaping. If I had just main phase cycled the Sandwing, we would have descended and we would have got a treasure token. So we would have had the treasure plus 5, or the treasure plus 4 lands next turn. Okay, never mind. Never mind. I'm so bad at math. I was gonna say we would have the treasure and enough mana to just cast Carnosaur next turn, but we wouldn't. It won't be till the turn after this anyway. Alright, I will, I think, be fine with acrobatic leaping the minecart here. Now that I am noticing the plane cycle descend synergy, I'm going to try to main phase plane cycle next turn, hopefully get a treasure towards Carnosaur. Although if we naturally hit the 4th land, I'm just going to cast Surveyor, because that's still going to hit a land here, and we didn't naturally hit it. So a plane cycle during our turn means we play land for turn, and we get a treasure. Unless Scallywag dies to some random thing here, but it probably doesn't. Uncool. I guess it dies to some random thing here. But they use that on our 2/2, so that's something. 4 out of 6 mana towards Carnosaur. Surveyor guarantees that we hit a red source. So we'll have the double red. They got a lot of flyers for sealed here. It just looks like a blue-white flyers draft deck, which is really consistent. Down to 14. Oh my god, they've got the Cloud Guard too? They just have all of the best commons in all their colors. This is a nightmare. They can flip the clay-fired bricks next turn if they crack their treasure and tap the siren. Then I don't have any reasonable blocks. I've got my own bricks to flip. Maybe I should have just put the hammer on Surveyor and killed the bricks here, but then I'm taking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the sky, going to 9. Now that I've cast the Guidewing, I don't have the mana up to destroy their bricks anymore. But I have a flying blocker at least, so that's something. Yep. That is horrific. Probably just game. My lord, yeah, it really is. Still 7 damage in the sky this way. I can't do anything about this. I guess I had to just go for the decommission on the bricks last turn. Take 7, and then... I don't know, even then, what do I do now at this point? That I'm casting a 1/1 Guidewing against a 3/2, a 2/2, and a 2/3? Maybe if I saw that Sandwing cycle line earlier and immediately went for the main phase plane cycle, we would have had the treasure earlier to maybe curve a little quicker and at least like maybe force a trade somewhere or something. I'm not seeing a lot we could do here. Game 3 it is. This here. Alright, Torch and Idol to clear out some of those 2/2 flyers. They pivot on a blue-red here real quick. It'd be a fast pivot. I think I just crack this. The biggest argument for keeping it would be like juicing up my flying lifelinker, but I've got an artifact engraved to just put this on there if I want to juice it. Make it a 3/1 flying lifelink since I can craft that away. But I think we're curving into Carnosaur here by dropping Surveyor to guarantee that next turn. So we're going to go Carnosaur and then Clay-Fired Bricks is going to get flipped the turn after that. I don't think I'm blocking with a Carnosaur follow-up and 28 life. Although, they probably do need the treasures to get their white sources. Because I don't think they like full pivoted to blue-red. They're probably just all 3 colors. Splashing the red or the white. Unless I'm completely blind, but I swear that they were on blue-white the first couple games. I'm pretty dang confident in that. Ooh, 7 damage Triumphant Trump. Wait, how was that up there? I scried that to the bottom. Oh, I shuffled with Scampering Surveyor. I didn't scry that to the bottom, I mulliganed that to the bottom. Okay. I've got those things that let me discard a card to draw a card, so maybe I'm supposed to keep this Plains in hand with potential Wanderglyph, but I'm going to be sacking lands and stuff to Hidden Volcano too, so I'm just going to jam it out. Make sure I hit all the land drops. Because I can do some expensive stuff, like 5 mana to crack this and 3 to flip this in the same turn, or 7 to flip this and 3 to flip this. Now I do have 2 artifacts engraved, so I can flip both these. Main phase Cogwork Wrestler? Oh, because they need to crew the minecart. They need to get a white source here. 26, again, I'm not going to block. It puts it at risk of Cosmium Blast. the Carnosaur. Miner's Guidewing. Well, I've got some clay-fired bricks to make sure our flyer is bigger than theirs if they don't explore into a non-land. But they explored into a non-land. So we just take the trade here then at this point. To get room for our other 2/2s to get in. Yeah, the bat's never getting another toughness. It might get more power from an idol, but it's not going to be able to not trade to Guidewing. They have Eaten by Piranhas, turn the Carnosaur into a 2/2. Well, 2/2 still hits them. A 2/2 still hits them or trades. So trade Guidewing for the bat, have the Wrestler explore, turn it into a 2/3. They have 2 cards left, one of which is the Waterwind Scout getting jammed out right now. Map token on the Waterwind Scout finds a Hunter's Blowgun that can give their stuff Death Touch during their turn and Reach during ours. They kept it? They want a +1/+1 equipment right now? Yeah, I guess having high enough toughness on their blockers helps. But I can flip the idol and just keep attacking with 1/4/2 every turn instead. And that is likely how things are going to pan out here. So 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So basically costs 6 to use the Volcano, because I have to tap the Volcano too. So if I use Volcano, I'm not doing anything else this turn. So instead, let's go for the Tote and the equipment. And we just keep jamming in with one of these creatures with an equipment on it every turn. You know, with Cosmium Kiln on board, Tinker's Tote might be better to pick up with the Archaeologist than the Surveyor, actually. I was thinking of exiling the Tote so that Surveyor's still in there as the better card, but Tote's probably actually the better card if we hit an Archaeologist. And we keep sending in with gnomes, because if we find Deconstruction Hammer, I believe that destroys an artifact or enchantment. So it would save our Trumpeting Carnosaur and just make a gigantic trampler on our board again. Clear the dork out of here, they draw their equipment. Crew the minecart. Just really want a white source here. Trade a single 2/2 into this minecart. Should have traded into this earlier. Obviously, in hindsight, they had a lot of white spells, and I think I could have figured that out. I mean, they had 2. But the treasures have still been valuable, for sure, for our opponent. There's a Tote, and now they don't have the mana to equip with the blowgun, they just have the mana to play it, so they just have 1/1s on blocks. Scallywag's a pretty beautiful draw. Now, because we have Sunshot Militias and the big 3/5 trampler thing, we would rather they kill our Carnosaur than a token this turn. That way we can have Descended this turn and we'll get a treasure token that we can use for our tapper cards. Because we have 3 of those tapper cards we could draw into, either of our Sunshot Militias, or if we draw into our, I always forget what the 3/5 is called, but the 3/5 Trampler that taps 2 things. If we draw into any of those, it'll be better to have another treasure token sitting around. If we draw into our 1 copy of Deconstruction Hammer, then it'll have been better to keep the dino around. I think it's just more likely to pay off getting the treasure token here. Plus, there's always the chance that the treasure token gives us enough mana to where we can sack the Hidden Volcano and, like, cast a spell that we top-decked in the same turn. There's the Archaeologist for the tote. Don't have the mana to play both. They're at 9. Block here, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're not killing them here. I could spin the wheel, try to kill them with a Sunshot Militia. If I discover a Sunshot Militia, they're dead. Or if I discover the 3/5, but I can't discover the 3/5, it's 5 mana value. It's probably a little greedy, but I'm going to spin the wheel. Raptor's not bad at all. Not bad at all. That puts them to dead on board if they don't have an instant here, because they don't have the white source to gain the life off the tote. On board, they have to trade into the 4/2. They do trade into the 4/2. Now, even if they, like, board wipe us, we could draw into a Sunshot Militia. Kill them in a couple turns. They did find the plane, so they're at basically 4 life here. So if they board wipe us, then they aren't technically dead. But we still have really live draws to kill them through that. So they are blue-white splash red, but they had basically a mono-blue hand here, so I don't think the mana choked them that terribly this game. But I mean, it was definitely advantageous to us that they did not have planes there. And looks like we just hit tons of action there against an awkward hand mana-wise, and that's going to find us the victory in round 2, to where we are now doing pretty great on value, getting 3,000 gems out of this event at least, feeling pretty good here, but we'll see how far we can take it as we head into round number 4. Here we are for game number 4, well, round number 4. No white source, but the Wanderglyph can ditch the War Scribe to draw something else. And on color, we have 2 2-drops, 3 drops if we hit any land. I'm gonna keep this, especially on the draw. Playing against a green deck here. Green-red it is, probably some beefy dinos available to them. Sad to be on the draw here. That means we don't get to idle of the Deep King, the Dart Frog, before it taps for mana. Since they're on the play, it will get to tap for mana at least 1 time before we kill it with 3 mana removal. And that 1 time is more than enough, giving them a turn 3 Colossodactyl while we still have 2 lands on board. They have a 4/5 reach trample. It's pretty large. Pretty dang large. What do we even do here? If I'm digging for lands, I have to play Militia to tap my board to discard a card, draw a card. Can still idle the Dart Frog, which is fine for stopping follow-up plays a little bit. And this idle is not super likely to kill any big dinos unless we 2-for-1 ourselves, trading a Raptor and idles enter the battlefield effect. Yeah, I'll idle the frog while they're tapped out. Don't love it. Jam in for 4. We're down to 16. That's it. No turn 4 play. If I drop Raptor and Guidewing, Warscribe might actually be a sick follow-up play. Ditch a Militia at this point? I don't know. I think Militia's still going to be nice in a board stall later. But if Wanderglyph ever dies, Archaeologist is going to be good, and we know what we're casting next turn. It's going to be Warscribe. Guess I just don't discard a card here. If it was draw a card, then discard, I would definitely do it. Since I have to discard first. I don't know, I really want that 5th land, though. So, yeah, dig for it. I will drop the Militia. Find a Triumphant Chomp, which looks pretty bad in this matchup, but we have the Raptor. So that we will have a 4 damage burn spell at least, if they don't clear out the Raptor. Let's see what they've got at instant speed at the end of our turn, but if they cast an instant, at least we shoot them for 4. Nothing. No instants. They might have some of the land cyclers, they just don't have cycle yet. Oh, they had the final strike, but they wanted to wait till their turn. I'm actually pretty fine with that. Because it soaks up their mana if they do it sorcery speed. So I can Warscribe, but Warscribe's not actually looking that crazy. With just 2 creatures on board, it's just an extra 4 damage. We deal 4, 5, 6, 7 right now. I think I would rather just play Archaeologists, and I guess we're ditching Triumphant Chomp with no dinos against a 4-5. Find an Enterprising Scallywag. That's a little interesting to me. We haven't descended this turn, so we won't get a treasure if we play it. Yeah, so I think I still just play the 4-4 and Scry, but I could play Scallywag and flip the Idol, which would have been the argument there. Okay. Removal for the Dino, I'll take it. They've got 6 mana. Now they've got a 6-6 trample to go with their 4-5 trample. No attacks. Kinda hate that I can't kill the biggest dino and attack in here, because the biggest dino is not the reach dino. If I play a Warscribe, I can attack with Archaeologists, but only Archaeologists. If I flip the Idol, I guess I can attack with Archaeologists, but they're threatening 10 trampling power on the crackback, which is really rough. Die to some combat tricks if I do that and they don't block. Can't make excellent use of my mana this turn. Guess I have to play it safe, though. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. Oh, why did I think it was 6 damage? Well, we should have killed Colossadactyl here. God, it's been a long day. Well, hopefully they just kill me here, because then I won't feel so bad. Because if I knew that I couldn't kill the 6-6 anyway, I don't think I actually would have wanted to kill Colossadactyl. I think the line would have been flip the Idol on Archaeologists, attack with that, and play Scallywag. So if I die to some combat trick, I was going to die to some combat trick either way. So that can make me feel a little better, so hopefully that happens. Let's see. We lose one of these two. Oh, they're just gonna flip the card draw engine. They pull out a creature from their deck every single turn with this. And they play a Scallywag. Looks like this game would have been going astronomically better if I played Scallywag Flipped Idol. Now we're just mega dying to Dreadmaw instead of slowly dying to Dreadmaw. Although I would have taken exactly the same amount of damage. I would just still have more creatures to try to outrace them. Maybe a War Scribe could find lethal here. God, I can't believe I literally just miscounted like a complete buffoon. We need at least 2 toughness to block with here. Still keep War Scribe, that's our most likely way to just randomly kill them if we get another turn. Threw game 1 in the garbage bin. Maze picks up their Paleontologist here. Unless they find something better than it in the top 4, but that's not super likely. Play Paleontologist, reanimate Colossadactyl as the play for the turn. 2 mana to play Paleontologist, 2 to exile the Colossadactyl, and 4 to play it. They've got 8 mana. Okay, at least show me the combat trick here. Because last turn I didn't... If they had Staggering Size for +3/+3, I blocked in a way where they couldn't kill me with a Staggering Size. If they cast Staggering Size here, then they probably had it earlier. But they just wanted to save it for lethal? No! Why do you not have a trick? Why are you going to make it so I would have probably... Well, not probably, but I could have potentially won if I didn't just throw away Rock Slide. God, that sucks so bad. What just a monkey brain error? I have no idea how I just forget how numbers work like that. Alright, cool. Just punts away due to counting issues. Of all things. Like, I can understand and work to address gameplay errors and misplays where it was based on, like, game theory and the strategy of, do I think I should be really offensive or defensive here kind of stuff? Should I hold this in case they have some sort of thing, or should I drop it? I can address those kind of errors. But, like, if I forget how numbers work, like, that's such a basic human error thing that it's, like, not something that I can look back on and be like, oh, well, I can learn so much from this error. That's a really frustrating way to lose a game. Because it's not an error you can learn from. Unless our learning is just count. It's like every game I'm already telling myself, like, I should probably count my lands. Keep track of all the correct numbers. I don't even know what that is. Just some stupid monkey brain sensory overload thing. Is that just what happens on my... How long has this recording been? Is that just what happens when I'm on my 3rd hour of Magic after 8 hours of work? I don't know. But it's so disappointing because that was That was anyone's game. If we killed the Colossodactyl, maybe we were even favored. Again, I don't think I would have killed the Colossodactyl that turn. I think I would have went for the 6/4 attack, because that would have led into potential just lethal with Warscribe the turn after. So maybe we would have won real quickly, depending on how they played, if they didn't have the trick. Anyways, they've got some actual premium little tutus, like Paleontologist and Cavalry. The Descender card as well, so I think our deck is fine as it is. We've already got our big removal, and we only have 2 little removal spells to shoot small things, and I think the things that shoot small things actually did look like they had some targets here. I just need to remember how numbers work. I think this round's worth like 2,000 gems also. So if I punt this one away, I punted away 2,000 gems because I forgot how to do math. Not even addition or subtraction or multiplication or algebra, just counting in the first place. I was like, 5 is 6, right? My lord. So I guess we lose because I forgot how to count, because this thing... takes over the game instantaneously for only 3 mana, and we can't kill it. Could have 2-4'd myself to kill it while they still got a map token out of the deal if I didn't kill the Wanderglyph. But that's not really a winning game. Alright. Game's not completely over. It's just looking very bad. Wow. They had Wanderglyph into Sentinel into Colossodactyl curve here. The double pump to even get past the reach, which I can't do. Paleontologist, their other bomb rare, at the ready. So even if I find a way to kill Colossodactyl, they'll just recast it. This game's looking like an auto loss regardless of decisions. Holy... Got Sentinel and Hammerskull and Paleontologist in there? 1 mana away from flipping clay-fired bricks. Post-combat Chomp might be able to do a tiny bit of something here. Maybe Auto Tapper was right, so I could sack the Tinker's Tote to guarantee I descended this turn. Yeah, no, post-combat Chomp's not going to do anything because I don't think I'm attacking with Strider over Guidewing. Although, way to clear the Hammerskull out, but then they just Paleontologize it back. Nope, Auto Tapper was right here. Crack the Tote to trigger Scallywag would be the play. Lock in the clay-fired bricks, flip next turn, and if I top deck a land, at least I get to just exile a treasure token instead of our idol that way. Yeah. That was loose, that's on me. See, that kind of gameplay sequencing sort of error I can learn from. It could be like, I can pay more attention to the board state and how we're actually attacking with my theoretical future plays. I need to keep these out. Reach blocker. Our only hope here was going to be maybe just going absolutely insane with the Guide Wing. 5 damage against 6 toughness cards. Awesome. Well, I can throw 2 removal spells out here. Which I guess we have to. At this point. They keep the 6/6 and we have to find some other way to deal with that. Because I think I need to deal with the trample so I can actually... Because I can actually chump block the 6/6. Then they can like recast Colossal Dactyl. Chump. No artifacts in grave. I have to exile an actual artifact on my board to flip this. I think I sack the tote, get a treasure, and now have an artifact to flip later. Although I should have attacked with Guidewing here, I just ran out of clocks. We should have went for double pump off of the non-creatures. Would be a little better. Probably just ends up trading to the Mineshaft Spider, but then the path is a little more clear for trying to maybe get a Gold Fury Strider lethal going. Alright, Gold Fury Strider lethal was never happening. So we just missed on trading Guidewing the Spider last turn. So we would have... Again, I don't think we would have hit them at all. I think we would have just traded into the Spider. And then now we don't have Gold Fury Strider attacks in anyway, so... It was definitely a punt not doing that last turn, but it hasn't really impacted the game at all. It's essentially in the same position this way. Since they had a 7/7 to follow up with. So let's just get our 1 turn later trade into the Spider, I suppose. That'll trigger the Scallywag again, which is nice. Okay. Again, same difference. No attacks this turn either way. Well, no attacks this turn if Guidewing died last turn. Just juice that Strider up, hope they don't have a lot of removal. Ooh. It's a chance. It's a chance and we'll take it. Oh, Cavern Stomper can just not be blocked by twos. I had to leave Scallywag up. Now I have to chump with Gold Fury Strider. Can it be blocked by threes? I don't think it can be blocked by threes, but I don't want to highlight it right now. Just in case my opponent forgets its ability as well. So used to the Cavern Stomper just 7/7 and Scry 2 that I forgot it has more text on it. It has a 4-mana ability that shuts off blocks. It's been so long since I've seen that be relevant. Yeah, it's so relevant on this board state. God dang it. Wow, we really punted away this final match. I have to chump there. And I have to chump there, so I might as well try to kill that, but then they still can just reanimate their stuff. Good lord. I could have played this game out a lot better. But I don't know, at least the only way we're like winning this game is if our opponent plays way too aggressively anyway. Because if they just hold up on defense, like they're recasting their Reach Dork, which is a 4/5, which can block Sandwing. Although I could try to make this 6/6 and maybe get there. But no, like they're recasting every dino from the whole game. Yeah, that's cope. That's cope. This game was probably winnable if we played perfectly. It was at least anyone's game. Yeah. If we still had Strider out, then we chump here. Try to get Sandwing up to 13 damage in one hit. I don't know if we could even make it there. But it'd be possible. Potentially. Might have more gnomes left behind if we played differently. Don't know. They have a Dart Frog anyway. So they would just trade into the Sandwing and we wouldn't get in. So they just Death Touch up a Dart Frog. Again, still played really, really poorly, but at least seeing the Dart Frog, we know we weren't getting anywhere with Sandwing if we don't also find removal. 9 life. If I attack with it here, and I only have 2 blockers up, block, take 3, 4, 5. I don't take 9. Unless they have removal. Ooh, wow. Yeah, their deck is phenomenal. We would have had to play really, really tightly to win this match. But I feel like both of these first 2 games, if we played really well and they played really poorly, there's a chance these first couple games could have gone differently for sure. Both of them, which would mean we could have won the round in another universe, maybe. Got some more gems. ain't happening today. Oops. I don't know why I'm getting my cards mixed up now. I'm completely out of it. I'm gonna go to bed as soon as I'm done recording this. 'Cause apparently I should not be operating heavy machinery or driving a vehicle or anything like that right now. The way this event has ended. We have 2 blockers now. Insanely lethal. Okay. Obviously that was not a great way to end it off, but when I started playing Magic today, I think things were going pretty well. I think we built pretty much the best deck we could have out of the sealed pool. I think it functioned pretty decently well. Obviously we got that loss just immediately in round 1, so that was kind of brutal, making it super unlikely to get anywhere close to a 6-win run. But we rallied back with a couple round victories and some really tight, really long games of Magic. That felt pretty good, but the longer the day went on, the sloppier things got, and we just completely punted away the last round. Just rough stuff. Yeah, not much to say about it. Obviously, it was just really bad plays. There were all kinds of plays. I mean, there's the kind of things that were game theory issues, and there was that initial punt that was literally just miscounting and misplayed in every possible way imaginable in a round that I think was winnable. It was definitely an uphill battle. Their deck was much stronger for sure. All of their rares seemed lined up in their 2-color pair and were incredibly synergistic, all being kind of like dino-oriented and just massive, except for the Merfolk rare, but just spitting out a bunch of map tokens is great value anyway. So, I mean, their deck was absurd. It was going to be super hard to win that fight, but with some evasive threats and some Gold Fury Strider activations and stuff, it was possible maybe get that War Scribe going in that first game, sneak in lethal. There were ways that at the very least we could have been trying to pull out a victory just out of our butt that didn't end up panning out because we just ended up making some massive misplays. So, pretty big bummer there, but I don't think this deck could have made it to a 7-win run anyway. Oh wow, yeah, this event needs a 7-win run, not a 6-win run, especially starting with a loss. I don't think our first round loss, there was really anything we could have done about it. We didn't have any better matchups in our sealed pool or any better decks to jam out against that first deck, and we were actually playing pretty well in the first few rounds of this event. It's just that final round that we threw everything in the trash. But it would have been nice to play a little bit longer, try to grind out some more gems out of the event, get a little more value, but I'll take it. I thought we were going 0-2 to start it off. At least we got a few thousand gems, and I can go ahead and take a nap, rest my brain, and tomorrow's a new day. Hopefully we'll play a little better, be a little tighter about things in the future. But I am very excited that that's basically the end of Lost Caverns of Ixalan competitive season. We have the Khans of Tarkir return to Arena, or I guess initial launch to Arena since it never came out on this program specifically, on Tuesday. So we basically have a brand new set to start drafting and playing, and that is the most exciting time of the year for me. So I am super pumped for the return of Khans of Tarkir for the first time on Magic Arena, and that's what we're going to be doing on Tuesday onward. Until then, I guess we'll do a couple more Alchemy Ixalan drafts, but I'm really tired of the format at this point. It's just been out a while. Always get a little bored of the format about a month in, and that is where we are at here. So cool stuff on the horizon with Khans of Tarkir coming back, but until then, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching the videos. If you're enjoying this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.